What is the one story you want to tell that you can never fit into a conversation? My dad is an OBGYN. He once got called by the local zoo to perform an emergency C-section on one of their gorillas. My mom has the baby gorilla's picture on the mantle with our baby picture. I went to the Grand Canyon years ago with my parents. A couple of stops and we get out at a lookout where there is only us and this biker couple. She was sitting on the edge of the canyon with something in her hand, and he was videotaping her. We had to walk past them to get to a trail that led into the canyon. It didn't take me and my dad long to see what the couple was doing, so we stopped and tried to give them space, but my mom kept walking. The woman dumped something into the canyon, and at the same time a wind blew out of the canyon and at my mom. The biker couple watched what they had dumped out fly into my mom's face. It turns out that it was the ashes of her brother, and his last request was to have his ashes spread at the Grand Canyon. What followed is the most awkward 10 minutes of my life as they talked to my mom about the departed. At the end of the conversation the lady says, "Don't feel bad about it, he loved to meet new people." My mom responds, "Well, it was nice to meet you, and your brother as well." I think I've shared this on another sub before, but I made Alec Baldwin laugh. It was Halloween, and I was in New York City, and my office was near the With 4th Street station, which is on 6th Avenue, where they do the massive Halloween parade every year. I was trying to rush to the station before the parade started, so I could get home and avoid the craziness. I was heading down Bleecker and already there are tons of people dressed up on their way to the parade. As I'm speed walking down the street, I get into an awkward shuffle with someone heading the opposite direction, where you both go the same direction at the same time, then try to go the other direction, but you basically just keep blocking each other by accident. I look up, and the person I'm doing this awkward shuffle dance with is Alec Baldwin. I normally don't think so quickly on my feet and I realize I pretty much peaked in this moment, but I blurt out, "That's a great Alec Baldwin costume." And he laughed. My drunk crazy uncle showed up in an Action Bronson episode about the South Bronx. They filmed him drinking beer out of a straw, hidden in his jacket. In 2011 I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. It was 4 days before my 17th birthday. When I got home from the hospital that day, I wanted to put myself in a better mood. So I watched Rush Hour, and then I watched Rush Hour 2, and then Rush Hour 3. Fast forward to a couple months ago, I volunteered at a high profile event that had a shit ton of celebrities. We weren't allowed to fraternize with the celebs and ask for pictures and autographs and stuff. But there was one celeb that I needed to slightly break that rule for. At the end of the event, I made sure to be near the exit and wait there for Detective James Carter himself. I approached him, I shook his hand, and walked him out, while explaining to him that Rush Hour got me through one of the worst days of my life so far, and it made me smile during a time that I had no business smiling in. He stopped dead in his tracks, looked at me, and thanked me for telling him. He then gave me a hug before sincerely wishing the best for me and leaving the event. And that's what happened when I met Chris Tucker. I live in Maine in the same town as Stephen King. I have worked at several stores when I was younger, such as Home Depot and Walmart. He has come in sometimes. He recognized me when I worked at Home Depot from Walmart and said, "You really need to stop following me." Jokingly, of course. He was a pretty cool dude. Bought some screws and lumber. I was held hostage in Iraq for over 2.5 years. I was the only person released alive out of the 5 of us taken. So the wife loves Disney and I love the Philadelphia Flyers. I took her to Disney to propose and everything's magical. The next day was my birthday and we are waiting in line when the woman in front notices my Flyers hat and says, "Oh, you're a Flyers fan?" I said yeah as I look at her husband and it's Danny Briere. So I got to ride the Tower of Terror with one of my heroes. Also we had nearly identical outfits on. Also it was Danny's birthday too. This past summer me and 2 of my friends were passing the time by just walking in a creek. We are in high school, so we had nothing better to do. As we're walking we hear what we thought to be a little kid whining. The creek wound around an elementary school, so we thought it might be some daycare going on. We continue to walk down the creek, which then led us to a slow flowing river about waist deep. We swim down it having a good time when we hear the same sound of the kid again, only it sounds less than 5 meters away, and it's definitely not a child. I look along the bank and spot a fawn baby deer stuck in some tree roots that were dangling over the bank. I don't know how long it had been stuck there, but its front left and both back legs were stuck in the roots. I ask one of my friends to hold my bag, and I head over to the deer. It had to have been stuck there for a decent while because it didn't seem to struggle when I got close. Presumably cause it was too tired to. I go over and lift the fawn up and carry him over to a less steep bank where he can make his way into the tree line surrounding the river. I don't know what happened to it after that, but I'm hoping it found its mama. My 50-year-old mother is one of the best 2048 players in the world. Her high score is somewhere in the millions, and she doesn't see it as a big deal. But I googled it, and she's like top 5 in the country. Nobody other than myself is interested in this, so I don't get many opportunities to brag on her behalf. This crazy, hilarious coincidence that turned a kinda lame prank into a legendary one that I'll never forget. I hope someone else on Reddit can finally appreciate this story. Me and a friend in high school snuck around a third friend during lunch one day, sneaking photos of him from different angles and then texting him creepy messages with the photo, like "I'm watching you, and I can smell you from here, and you're so cute I'm getting closer." Each time we'd send the message and run somewhere else and watch his reaction, trying to find his stalker. The last picture we took was from a window overlooking him sitting in a courtyard. We sent the picture with another creepy message and watched from the edges of the window, giggling like schoolgirls we are guys. Just as our friend starts trying to look up to the window to see who was taking the pictures, a random chubby guy walked up the stairwell where we were hiding and saw us giggling and peeking out the window. This guy was not in high school. He looked at least 20, and I'd never seen him in my life. No idea why he was there, but this glorious Methodica walks up to the window, looks down to our friend staring up at him, and then decides to lift up his shirt, rub his hairy nipples and stick his tongue out at him. He then lowered his shirt and continued his walk up the stairwell, never to be seen again. The look of sheer terror and confusion on our friend's face I'll never forget. Such a good memory. One time me and my brother were being signed up by my parents to do a Rugrats Campbell Soup commercial. My parents were both in chairs in front of this desk talking to a man, and I was sitting leaning against the wall by the door behind them. Then a hand comes through the door and clamps around my mouth and I get dragged out of the room. He's dragging me down the hall, and I'm trying to kick and scream, but he's this 6'2" white guy with a long beard and I can't budge or make a noise past his hand. Then halfway down the hallway in the lobby the receptionist looks up at us, and he lets me go. I run back to the room and sit on the floor between my parents' chairs. The guy comes in again and whispers something to the man my parents are talking to and leaves. It still makes me angry today because when I told them this story they didn't believe me. I was 5. I'm 27 now and now they believe me. It was so traumatizing I still remember it. I worked at a banking call center for a short time. During training one of the things they warned me about was a guy they called the sneezer. He would call in and only wanted to talk to women. He'd pretend to be opening up an account, but the whole time be acting like he really needed to sneeze. He wanted the female representative to tell him to let it go and that it was okay to do it. Clearly being a perv and jerking off to a female voice. I had been on the phones a while before I ever got him. He called me and tried that shit with me, but I stayed on subject, except to tell him to look up at the light, and if he had so much difficulty sneezing he might need a doctor, and set up an account. Most reps weren't able to get that far, after which he was getting nasty and saying lewd things. After a warning and him continuing I hung up. My coworker that sat next to me got a call a few hours later and almost immediately hung up. Turns to me and says she got the sneezer. I tell her what happened to me and we laugh it off. A few more hours goes by and she gets him again and I get to listen in a bit cause I'm on my break. This time my coworker has a plan. She tells him to relax, close his eyes, take a deep breath. At this point you can tell he's loving it, and picture his grandmother busting in. I hear a lot of cussing through her headphones, and she hangs up. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe,